Hey, Web and App Development class. We're looking at the HTML structure badge and just how to build your basic HTML skeleton in case you forget, or in case you're watching this on your own and are ahead of me in class. So when we build an HTML skeleton, what we mean is the bare bones of getting an HTML page to work. These are things that you wouldn't necessarily show up on a page when you look at them on a browser, but they are important pieces to make sure that your HTML is going to function as you expect it to. So the first thing is that in order to make an HTML skeleton, we need to tell the computer we're working in HTML. And just like any other tag, we open the HTML tag, and when we're done, we close the HTML tag, which means everything we want to do should be between these two tags, with the exception of one thing that we will come back and take a look at. The next thing we want to do is we want to build a head. The head tag is going to be where some information goes about the page, but it's not what you would do for what shows up on the page. So nothing inside our head is going to show up on the page. Again, there's always one exception. Most of the stuff we put in head is stuff about that would help like Google searches to find our page better, or to give the page some information about how it's going to behave, or how kind of the things inside the page, how they're going to act. And we'll get into more things in the head as we go throughout the class. The part that's more exciting for us is the body, and you'll notice I left a lot of room in the body, and that is because the body is where anything that actually shows up on the page is going to go. So, I could actually just put like words here, but I'm not even going to do that right now. I'm just going to leave it blank for now because anything can go in there. Excuse me. And then there is, there's a few more things we're going to add, but one thing we're going to add is a title. The title of the page is what will show up like at the top of the screen in your browser when you go to it. So it's like what you would want people to see. And maybe we'll call it a test page, or you could call it skeleton page, or just, random web page, whatever you want to put in there. So the title will make that show up. So if I'm going to save this, I would go ahead and say save, and I would give it a name. When I save it, I'm going to have to make sure I name it something.html. So skeleton.html would be a good one. Now I already have created a skeleton once, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it with my new one. Once we save it in HTML, if you're using Sublime or another text editor like Caret, it might format the code for you a little bit, which is just a way to help you see errors if you've made errors. That if things don't light up the way that these do, maybe you have an error on your page. I'm going to go over to Google Chrome, and I'm going to say open file. If you are on some browsers that don't have this up here, you can't see the file, edit, those kinds of menus, just hit your Control O and you'll be able to get it that way. And I have to find where I've saved it. You always have to pay attention in this class where you're saving things. I know I put mine on the desktop in a folder called web, where I'm going to save my work. And so I say skeleton HTML and I open it. And you'll see there's nothing in the body, which means this is a blank page. There's nothing here. I do have a test page, that's the title. So that worked up there. It's the name of my tab is now test page. And as I open up different tabs, you'll see that I have test page up here. To go back to Sublime, to add just a few more details, that is your basic skeleton. If you're starting work in the book that we're using, there'll be a few others that they add, and I wanted to put those in here as well. The first one is, I want to make sure I get it right, so just give me 1 second. The first one is what we call the doc type. Now this is almost like just another way to tell the computer that you're using HTML. Certain browsers or certain functions in a browser might want to read it this way rather than this way. So it's just another way to tell it, hey, guess what? This is an HTML file. So you know right from the beginning to interpret this as HTML. So you can see this exclamation mark. It's almost like an interruption. It's like, hey, wait, before you go any further, um, we're going to be telling you that we're working in HTML. You can also throw one thing into your HTML tag here at the top. You can tell it that you want to be working in a language, and we're going to say we're going to be working in English. So again, more information. Again, everything up here, up in the head, is kind of information about the page, information that almost the computer needs more than what the user needs. So you might say, that's somewhat obvious, or maybe you say, I wonder what would happen if I changed my language. What would it show up like on the page? It's not going to just automatically translate it, I don't think. I've never played around with that, so it'd be an interesting thing to see. Really what you want to do is you want to tell, again, if this is a page on the internet, you want to tell Google, hey, this is an English language page, so it can index the page properly when you go to search for it later. So these are all things that help with that. They call that search engine optimization, SEO, and these things help with search engine optimization. If you become good at search engine optimization, you can make a lot of money, so it's a good thing to know some of the basics of it. Another one that helps in that is what's called a meta tag. Again, these are things that the browser reads that help it characterize the page, to help it know information about the page. We're going to tell it that we're using a character set called the UTF-8 character set. That's kind of the standard character set in on web pages. It includes things like special characters that we can type in. So sometimes if you wanted to get a special character to show up on your page, you wouldn't just be able to type it. Like obviously if I want the $sign to show up, I can type it. But if I wanted the copyright sign or the TM sign to show up, there's nowhere I can type that on my page. And there's some special codes down here. It's like you would do some things like this and it would make a code. The nice thing about setting this up is that it becomes easier to display those codes, and we can insert those characters in here. So anyway, you don't need to necessarily know that, but these are some things that are good to put into your page while we're building a blank header. And you could say to yourself, if every page contains these things, then I can open this skeleton up whenever I want to create a new website and I can start working on it. These are the things that should be on every single website. Of course, changing the title would be a good thing, right? But other than that, you wouldn't have to change anything on this page. You could just use this, change the title, and you're off and running with all the basic HTML that you need. So there you go, and good luck making your web pages.